Okay, chess fans, in my progression to 1800 chess.com Rapid, here are two very, very subtle training mistakes I see in low rated players. Mistake number one is to do the wrong type of tactics training. And so something that I see is people spending a lot of time raising their puzzle rating. If you go to my chess.com account, you will find that I have a puzzle rating of 3000. And you'll be like, wow, that's incredible light squares. You should be jousting with title players. Not really. I just hang my queen like you. And what I've come to realize is that our rating in chess is not determined by our ceiling, but by our floor. And so interpret my words carefully. I'm not saying that this is bad for you. By all means, do some difficult puzzles. We need to train our ability to calculate. However, understand our games sub 2000 are going to be decided by basic tactics. And to illustrate this point, I'm going to show you a position from a classical over the board game that I played. And there's a reason I'm showing you a classical game. And in this position, my opponent has played rook on e to d8. And I feel with the white pieces that my opponent has made some mistake here. And I'm right, my intuition is right, white is winning. Now this could be a 3000 rated puzzle on chess.com. It could easily be. And so if you're interested in an exercise, why not pause the video and try and work out the best continuation from white. And of course, you guys have been watching Gukesh and Dingley Ren play chess, and you don't have the engine on, and you're like, light squares is so obvious. You go play knight takes f6, and bishop takes f6, and then f4, and now this knight has only one square on c6. Then you got to launch this discovered attack here on d5. The queen's hanging, the bishop's hanging. And now what's black going to do? Okay, they could try and exchange pieces, but then their rook is hanging. If they try to save their rook, well, their knight's gone. It's pinned. And you're like, light squares, you didn't see this? No, guys, I did not see this. After rook on e to d8, I spent 20 minutes thinking about this position. 20 minutes. Understand that you could play a whole chess.com rapid game in that time. I couldn't figure this out in a classical game. Forget about rapid chess. And in this position, I just play queen takes d6. The engine doesn't hate it, but doesn't like it either. It's just a pawn. And my opponent has nothing. Okay, there's some discovered attack here on the queen, but I calculated that goes nowhere. And we have bishop c6, knight takes f6 check, bishop takes f6, rook, queen takes c7, rook takes c7, bishop takes c6, rook takes c6, knight to e4, attacking this bishop. My opponent throws in this check, knight to f3, king g2. They go for a bishop exchange. Bishop takes a1, rook takes a1. And look at this. Look at this. Never mind the elaborate tactics, guys. This is what happens over and over again. If I don't do it, you're going to do it. And now you know how to win this game. After knight to d2, it's rook on f to d1. I find that immediately. And have a look at this position. This knight is double attacked, and it's pinned. And my opponent can really do nothing. They can't even move their rook across because the knight is guarding that square. And so they just go down the exchange. I'm not going to show you the rest of the game, but I do go on to convert this game. And so my point is, yeah, we need to do tactics training, but we need to understand to see these basic patterns quickly and over again. And so rather than bring up your puzzle rating all the time, okay, you should spend more time on things like Puzzle Rush Survival. And so if you go into my account and you inspect it, you'll find that week after week, month after month, I am putting regular scores of Puzzle Rush Survival. And this is where you start with basic puzzles and you get more difficult ones, and it's 3 strikes and you're out. And I'm posting a regular score of around 40. I'm training my mind to see the basic patterns that basically decide our game. If you don't want to pay for a chess.com membership, you can just use Puzzle Streak on Lichess for free. Mistake number 2 is to perform shallow analysis. How many of us go into the game review tool, run it, and say, well, here's a bunch of tactics I missed. That is why I won or lost. And obviously, that is why you won or lost. However, we need to go deeper. We need to understand why we got into the situations we got into. And so have a look at this training game that I played with one of my friends. I have 2 extra pawns. I thought I was winning. I'm not, according to the engine. And my opponent throws in this move, queen to d7. And afterwards, we're talking about it. And they're like, well, if they didn't play queen to d7, I would have no time to play queen to e1, basically threatening a mate in 3 combination here on g3, king h1, Rook a1 check, rook f1, and now rook takes f1 is checkmate. They have to stop it. Rook g4. I throw in the check. They have to block with their bishop, otherwise they're going to get checkmated. And now we have queen e2, launching an attack here on the rook, but also threatening mate. My opponent has to give up their rook. And how I go on to convert this game, it's not relevant. But their perspective on this game was, well, everything was even according to the engine. But had they not played queen d7, instead played queen to c8, threatening their own mate, then I would have no time to do all the stuff above. And I would say, forget about all that. Because aside from that, they didn't have much in this game. The type of questions I would be asking if I had the white pieces, right, is in this position, for example, basic questions, by the way. Anyone could ask these questions. Is in this position, did they need to play e4? If you go into the Lichess database, you'll find that there's some 45 master games like this, but only 4 or 5 go with e4. And this blocks in the light squared bishop. Okay, tactics flow from kind of piece activity, and this bishop spends the entirety of the game doing basically nothing. And so he needs to ask himself, like, did he need to play e4? If we fast forward a whole bunch of moves, you see the construction here of a backward pawn on d3 because of this horrible check. And if you're wondering, they can't play d4 because after e takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, we have knight b3 fork. Okay, so they do accurately calculate that they have to play d3 in this position. Another question you should ask yourself is, well, don't play that. Another question you should ask yourself is, could I have avoided the construction of this backward pawn? Okay. If we fast forward a whole bunch of moves, I'm threatening to put my knight here on b3, which would be really annoying. And my opponent just goes and gives up their bishop pair. Now, arguably, this light square bishop is the bad bishop. And this bishop on e3 is a little bit more useful. And so you need to ask yourself, like, did I need to give this up? Maybe knight to c1 is a move. Okay, the engine doesn't like it, but that's something that you need to look into. And after doubling my pawns, which is not a problem because they are connected, the queen has a target. The queen has a target on the d3 pawn. And my opponent basically does nothing in this game apart from babysit that pawn. Their heaviest piece is tied down to the defense of this pawn. And this gives us time to perform all kinds of rook lifts and then ideas of sacking this bishop on h4. And so this is the deeper analysis you're looking for. You want to ask yourself, could I have had a more active position? Never mind this queen d7 thing that they weren't talking about before. Forget about this. Forget about this blunder. Because from where I'm looking, if my opponent plays this type of game over and over and over again, they're going to lose a lot of games. That's it. Bye.